So hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Amesie's Corner. How are you all doing out there? So today is the day we take a really good look at this Sonnet here. For those of you that don't know, this is a Sonnet that I picked up on the cheap a little over 5 years ago. It was a complete mess. A lot of people had looked at the car and said it was unsavable. The floors were rotted out, the trunk was completely rotted out. The floor, the front floors had rotted out so bad that the dashboard underneath actually rotted out. Yeah, I mean, it was a really rough car, but I kind of saw some value in it. Now, the thing with this car is it has under 10,000 original miles, and that's why it's such a survivor. That's why it was such a car able to be restored, or what I like to call rustored. And the reason I choose restoration over full restoration is I don't have my own shop. A lot of people think that that YouTube is my sole source of income and that I own the shop or the bay and I can do whatever I want here. Nothing could be further from the truth. I'm a tech in somebody else's garage. I've been here for some time, since 2011, and we've done a lot of changes at the shop. We started out in another building down the street. We weren't nearly as busy as we were now. And I figured it'd be okay to take the time and take on a project. Now, the stipulation with the project was, in any project, I am a full-time automotive technician here at Approved Auto. My bay has to be cleared out of all my projects and ready to fix other people's broken cars to keep these lights on first thing Monday morning. So no matter what I do, no matter how far apart I take a car, it has to roll out the door and go hide somewhere out of the way, so you know it's not taking up any of the parking spots or anything. And back when I got this car, like I said, we were in a different location. We weren't nearly as busy as we are now. There's really not a lot of technicians in this shop. There's myself. I consider myself an A+ level technician. The other bay over here, this would be Paul T. He's another A+ level technician. We just hired the new guy, Willie. He's pretty good. I'd give him a high B. He's not quite A yet. And we have Sean, who is the guy that, if you guys remember, I had asked for if any of my viewers wanted to come in and work with me in the shop. And Sean over here, he applied. He got the job. He's been with us, about a year now, coming up on a year now. But he's a good guy, great attitude, but I gotta say he's probably about a high C level tech. He can get stuff done, but we have a lot of work coming in and out, and the majority of that work is just myself and Paul. And like I said, to keep these lights on, this bay has to be ready to make money first thing Monday morning. So when we took on the Sonnet, when I took on the Sonnet, it was a wreck. It was a mess, but it still drove. I drove this car home, literally, no trunk, no floors, just kind of taped together a little bit to hold like the front end on it, and we drove the thing home. It was such a blast, and the car spoke to me then that it wanted to be saved. Now this was 2013 when I brought this car home. It was exactly June 16th, 2013, and I had the car done and on the road driving July 29th of the same year. Less than a month to turn a car around is pretty crazy, considering that I'm still working every day turning wrenches on everyone else's cars. So we got the car done, and I expected it to last one summer. I expected to get one summer out of it, one last hurrah for the Sonnet. Would have, 2013, and would have driven that summer, 2014. I didn't think this car was going to survive, and it just kept going. It kept going and going and going. But it's been a while, and the car sits in my yard. And I don't drive it much, just because we got so many other projects going on. I got the 96, we got the Gold Wing, I've got the 2 daily drivers, which are just nothing cars. I don't really show you guys, and a bunch of other little projects, electric kayak and stuff like that going on. And I don't have a lot of time to play with these cars and toys, let alone bring them back out of the cabbage once I have already. The first thing about Saab Sonnets that make them such a good candidate for a restoration is the body is completely fiberglass. All of the body, it will never rust out. No matter how bad the rest of the car gets, none of this body panels will rot out. Now, a lot of classic cars, 99.9% of classic cars, the bodies are all steel. And what happens is say like these quarter panels will rust out all in these areas here. And when a steel-bodied car rusts out in all of these areas, there's nothing you can do but cut it out, patch it up, weld it together, and then you got to deal with all the symmetry of the car. Everything has to look like it wasn't messed with. Now a Sonnet, none of this will ever go anywhere. It will never rust. I mean, you can bury these things on the side of a mountain and the body will never rust. Ask me how I know. So the only thing on it that you really see that is steel are these rocker panels, and they're pretty much just a flat piece of metal. There's no real skill other than just welding flat pieces to flat pieces and, you know, cut out the rust and weld it together. So the only thing you really see they have to worry about are these panels here, and it's real easy. They're real low, and you can kind of hide any kind of bad welds or repairs with that, and not a big deal. So yeah, the bodies will never rot out. The fenders, the doors, the roof, the A-pillars, a lot of the windshield surrounds on cars, this area down here can get really bad, and on a lot of classic cars. But the Sonnet will never have these issues, which is why they're a great candidate for restoration, for something that you don't want to have to get into the whole body work and all of that. So that being said, the troubles that you have with this car is everything underneath rots out. Now why don't we grab my trusty filming flashlight here. Anybody wants to know if you're making a video of something dark and you don't want to white out and blow out your white balance, what I like to do is take a flashlight and paint the inside of the lens white, and you end up with a nice soft light that doesn't really blow out your focus or your white balance. I get a lot of questions about that, so now you know. So why don't we go on the passenger side? We'll have a little more room. Now I had said that this car rotted out so bad, the floors had rotted out so bad. You see there's my patch floor. There used to be a big hole. They had rotted out so bad that the underneath of the dashboard rotted out, and I am not kidding. And there we see a lot of the rust that I really haven't showed you guys. I know I've talked about it a lot, but I don't think I've ever gotten you guys in here to see just what it's like inside the Sonnet, and it's just getting worse with age. Like I said, this car was never ever meant to last 5 years. It was meant to last 5 months, and that was kind of where I went with the restoration. I didn't bother taking care of the headliner that everyone's always complaining about, because I'm not going to waste my time making the headliner look good if the underneath the dashboard looks like that. So yeah, see, she's seen better days. 5 years on the road since everyone had given up on her isn't too bad. That's kind of new. Yeah, I guess it closes good enough. So let's take a look at the engine bay. And there is the Taunus motor. You guys might remember we dressed it up 4 years ago with some painted valve covers and some painted details, but we look down inside here, and one trouble area I had, we'll get this thing up in the air, we'll be able to see a little more of what I'm talking about. If we can get you guys situated so we get light and eyes and everything. But way down, hopefully this works, you can see this down here, these suspension mount areas, that's where the lower control arms mount up. This driver's side has always kind of scared me. Now, I can't pull this motor here. I can't take this car that far apart to be able to get in there and take care of that. Now, this car could definitely be saved, but the body completely has to be taken off. It's kind of a monocoque chassis, so it's glued and riveted. It's not the easiest thing in the world. It takes a lot of space, a lot of time, and the car will become completely immovable to do it. And that's a big problem for me. That is a huge problem for me. So as far as the body, I mean, fiberglass doesn't rust out. It does a few other things. It can dry out and kind of dry rot and flake. A lot of fiberglass has structure members inside of it. Sometimes they use wood, sometimes they use metal, and that stuff can deteriorate inside of it. Another thing that happens is the outer layers can delaminate, which is kind of what we got going on a lot of the upper surfaces of this car. The upper layers are delaminating from the lower. We get it in a few areas like back there. You can kind of see it going on in the headlight thing. Now, whenever this happens, I usually sand it, and you guys will get a kick out of this, every Halloween, and it's the only time I can find this, the end of October, pumpkin orange spray paint. And it just happens to be almost a perfect color, or at least it was 5 years ago. The car's kind of faded a bit. I actually had painted a little area here. You probably can barely see it, and same back here with this paint. And if I didn't tell you about it, you probably never even notice it. This paint does kind of oxidize after 5 years, which is why it's not looking as good now. So yeah, there's that. There's some issues with it. This nose of the car, this whole front hood area, they call it the hood. Well, the hood's actually the little thing. There's been some repairs under here, which I think this car having a freewheel transmission, and pretty much every Sonnet I've ever seen has a lot of fiberglass repair in the front end. I think people rear end people when they come to a stop. They forget that they're driving a manual transmission with the freewheel. They freewheel up to traffic. Next thing you know, the engine starts lumping them ahead into the car in front of them. And this motor's got a ton of torque for a little motor, and it totally, I don't think the brakes could stop the motor in first gear. I think the motor would just idle past as hard as you push the brakes, which is kind of weird. But the brakes aren't power boosted or anything, so I mean, yeah, you got what you got. So yeah, that's pretty much what we're dealing with that. Let's take a quick look at the trunk, because we got some stuff going on in there. You're going to notice that's the theme with this car. There's something going on with everything right now. Yeah, I guess it's not real bad. Some structure we had to make because there was nothing left back here, but I don't really have any of the finishing panels. Back here is actually held up really well. I can't really complain about the trunk area. I keep a huge battery. That's a really big battery for a little car, but this car can sit idle for long periods of time. It's nice to have a big battery to make sure it's going to start for me, or if I have any mechanical issues on the road, I know I got a lot of cranking power. I got one of the soccer ball wheels that came with it. I wish I had 3 more, but it is what it is. Another thing about this car and all my project cars, except for the Gold Wings, I got a little place I can keep that inside. All of these cars have to live outside where I live. This thing here sits in a spot right out front next to a minivan that hasn't moved in 5 or 6 years, but you know, I get a lot of people banging on the door asking the neighbors if it's for sale, and I just turn everyone away. I haven't really kind of showed it to anyone or thought I could sell this car to anybody. I don't know if I'd trust it with anybody but me. I don't know, guys. Why don't we get this thing up in the air and let's take a look under it. And I apologize for any broken hearts in advance. Well, all right, guys, let's start at the back and work our way to the front. The back is in good shape. The front, not so much. So first thing I want to not talk about a second is my Amesie plate. Man, I love that plate. I cannot wait to get that plate on the 96, and that's going to happen sooner than later. So we're going to start off back here. First thing we're going to look at is last time I drove this car, this exhaust snapped off up the front, I was on the highway, hit the ground, and got pushed in and cracked the fiberglass right here, which isn't really a big deal. Fiberglass is super repairable, but it's just something that happened, and I really haven't driven the car very much since that happened. It actually took out one of the brand new tires. It kind of swung over and took out the right front tire, but luckily these tires were brand new, and I got road hazard damage on them when I bought them, and I got a new tire for free. But yeah, dual exhaust back here. The left side, this doesn't have really mufflers, it has silencers, which is why it sounds so cool. This side's all right. This side here has been slowly rotting out on the silencer itself. Stainless pipes though. It's definitely I'm probably gonna hold on to those no matter what happens, but it's hard to find that size pipe, let alone stainless. The rear end, the tires, like I said, brand new. You can still see all the little nubbles on them. I maybe have 100 miles on these tires in 2 years, so I really don't drive the car a lot. You know, everything with the axles looking good, everything with the trunk pans holding up well. You're gonna notice this sheen on it. The sheen is all that New Hampshire oil undercoating, which I gotta say has done wonders for this car. I think this car would be in a lot worse shape if I haven't been undercoating this for the last 3 years relatively faithfully. But I think that was the only thing really keeping it going for as long as it did. We're gonna come up here. This is a trouble area with the car. You guys will remember the 96 was very similar, and it's starting to get a little holy here and there. It's not looking so good. Maybe it's looking a little worse than I thought looking at this side. So, you know, the more I look at it, the worse the more I find. This middle mount, very important middle mount, you guys can see. Yeah, it's getting pretty rough back here, and this is all stuff that, to fix all of this car would have to be left on my lift for a day or two, and yeah, it totally can't happen. This side here, you got some heartbreak going on over here, guys. This is just this was something I knew was going on that I didn't fix before, that wasn't bad 5 years ago, and now it's bad. Here's the leading link, very important leading link to the rear suspension. And it's not as bad as the 96 was. The 96, this was all gone, but it might as well be all gone. So yeah, working forward, the floors, all the patches I did up here, they're all holding up really, really well. This rocker here, these rockers have both been replaced before I owned the car. It's kind of patches on top of patches. It's, for the most part, this one's all right. I think this might have been an actually bought panel. I think this was a panel that was purchased from someplace for the car, and they welded it in. I don't think it was homemade, just from the shape of it. It's got some weird pleats in it that aren't welds. Those are actual bends that would bend on what I would guess is a press brake. But we had some patches we did last year, but we have some areas. Yeah, see, we got some holes going on here where it meets to some of my patches. Some of the weak areas blew through. We'll go on the other side, and it's not going to be any better. A little bit of the same. You can see where this has been repaired on top of this. This wasn't a repair I had done. You see these welds, those were where I got it. So the car was patches on top of patches before I got it. Incidentally, that's what I named the car. I don't know if I've ever told you guys, but I named the car Patches because it's more patches than car. And this rocker here, and there's the hot brake on this side. Yeah, so even up here. So this whole panel here. Oh yeah, oh yeah. So you know guys, you know what I'm saying. It's just it's getting worse and worse the more we look at it, isn't it? We come up, look at all these patches, patches on top of patches on top of patches, 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 patches. It's just to keep the car on the road. Some of these I did the one way up. I'm not proud of those welds, but this was a long time ago. I was still learning how to weld these rusty Saabs together. Just like the 96, you get better the more you do. But this side's not too bad. You know, we got the control arm comes up just exactly the same setup as the 96. You guys remember. All of these parts, all these suspension parts are all interchangeable with the 96. And yeah, and we get over here, and we got some more rust that was going on before. That's just getting a little worse. And you guys might have noticed it was pretty loud coming in. That's because the exhaust rotted off. This happened back in like May, I think it was, and I just haven't driven the car since. But I figure we'll patch that up today to get this car at least moving again under its power, running and driving, and not, you know, waking up all the neighbors. Up here we can see, I was saying how I think the freewheel causes these cars to rear end other people. If you look way up, all of that up there is all repaired fiberglass. You can actually even see it right here, how thick and rough that is. But no big deal. That was probably something done in the 80s, in the early 80s, and it's just part of the life. You can see right there, it's more goop than fiberglass. That's part of the life of the car. Let me just switch my hands here. Here's a repair. This exhaust had broken off. I just did a quick repair, nothing special, nothing fancy. Going to the stainless pipes. This side here, same as the other. Everything in here is in good shape. This, like I said, this car only has under 10,000 miles on it. So I mean, even though they've been out in New England winters, all these ball joints and driveline components are all perfectly tight and serviceable. I mean, that's why this car just does so well. Here we can see more of that fiberglass repair. You can see the mat, the weave, where they had to put the whole front of this thing back together. But you know, it is what it is. The brakes, all of that, exactly the same as the 96. Now we're going to get to the part of the car that really scares me. I don't think I've ever showed this, but here is the control arm mount. You can see right here, the control arm bolts through there. You see right next to it, it's all rusted out. Right here, this is all pretty important structural areas of this car. It's totally in my I'm totally capable of repairing it. Yeah, this side, this is where it's really bad, right up in here. See it? Yeah, I mean, that's not good, guys. That's not good. That's kind of terminal. I could totally repair all of this, but like I said, I can't take a car apart here at the shop. I don't have a garage where I can have a lift and take a car apart that do what this car needs. It needs to be completely every single piece taken apart. And if the chassis, if the underbody survives that, I mean, I don't even know if that would even survive with the fiberglass taken off. A lot of the structure comes from the fiberglass on this car, I think, right now. And I think if you took the body off, the underneath of the car would just fold up and wouldn't be savable. So, yeah, it is what it is, guys. Well, all right, guys, it is what it is. I think I got to say the Sonnet is just a little worse for wear than I think I can handle right now. It's not a matter of ability; it's a matter of facility. Like I said, if I quit my job, if I quit my day job, which I make a decent amount of money and all that with, and stability and security, if I quit my day job and had a garage that I could do YouTube full time and restore this car, I would in a heartbeat. But like I said, that stability of having a day job and punching the clock and getting a paycheck every week, I just don't have the time or the energy or the money really to keep the Sonnet on the road for any longer. Like I said many times before, the Sonnet was meant to last 6 months, a year, you know, maybe drive it that 1 year, the 2013 when we got it going. That's why I spent so little time actually getting it up to the point where I could actually bring it to car shows, just because I knew in the near future the car was just not gonna survive very long. The good news, I gave this car another life. I gave this car 5 more years on the road, continually registered, continually state inspected. I'd make it past inspection every year, except for this year. There's just too much going on. What we did with this car is we introduced a lot of people to the Sonnet. I brought this to as many car shows as I could, and just told people about the cars that they never knew about. Posts online, YouTube, Facebook, putting this car out there. Since I've done that, I've watched the values of classic Saab Sonnets and Saabs in general rise and rise. And I'd like to say a big part of that was this car here being saved and kept on the road and being shown, to show how cool they are and that they're still around. I think me and this car single-handedly raised the value of every other Sonnet in the world. And for that, I'm eternally grateful. I'm eternally grateful to the car. I'm grateful for you guys watching. Thank you very much for being there with these projects. But there comes a time in every project that enough is enough. And I really think we're at that point, guys. I really do. So where do we go from here? That's the question. What do I do? Do I strip this car of all its low mile parts? The motor runs great. To get here, it was loud. It was loud and obnoxious, but we went for a crazy run, top speed run down the highway coming here. I made a video live on the Facebook group. We brought this car up to the better part of 80 miles an hour. We did a little bit of weaving in and out of slow traffic, and just had a blast with it, like every time I drive it. So what do we do with it? Like I said, do I strip that good, fast-running 1.7 liter motor out and the transmission that is perfect and put all the stuff in the 96? Do I keep this car as yard art? Do I put this car in the yard and just let it slowly turn into the lost Sonnet and get buried into the ground? I don't think that'll happen, but do I sell it to somebody that can restore it? I would love to see the car be fixed. That's kind of what I would love to do, to find someone that could take the zeal that I had with it when I got it, has the place and the time to do it and restore it. I'm kind of torn, guys. So I guess this is what we're going to do. I think we're going to make a poll on Facebook and ask them what to do. Maybe I'll have a couple of choices and we'll see what happens. The short-term plan for this car, I'm going to patch up that exhaust, that broken exhaust, so it's not as annoying. I'm going to enjoy it today. I'm going to drive it around today. The 26th of this month, August 26, 2018, Sunday, is the Winnikinny Car Show. This car has been in every Winnikinny Car Show since I got it going, and I think it's only fair that we bring it to one last car show, give this thing one last end of summer hurrah at a car show where you guys can come and take a look at it. Sorry, I'm getting a little emotional about it. You put so much time and effort into something like this. it's kind of it's kind of like having a pet dog, you know. So yeah, I guess we're gonna bring this thing to the Winnie Kinney Car Show in a couple of weeks. If you guys want to come and see it, it's probably going to be its last public appearance unless some amazing thing can happen. But for now, like I said, for me, it's not a matter of ability, it's a matter of facility. All right, guys, I gotta go. I don't think I can talk much more about it. Thanks for watching, guys. Thumbs up are much appreciated. Questions, comments down below. Maybe you guys can make me feel a little better about the old girl here. On that note, and until next time, sometimes you can't always keep it out of the cabbage forever.